I want to read a quote of yours back to you.
Oh,
and this will be the last question. Thank you for your time.
Was that smoking weed, dude?
No, this
Okay.
is actually a very recent quote.
Oh, fuck.
He said, the people who designed Leimert never intended for us to live here.
Very true.
Unpack that for us.
Walter H. Leimert hired the sons of Rudolph Olmsted, twin sons of so Rudolph Olmsted, or I think it's Randolph maybe, Olmsted designed Central Park. So a little bit about Los Angeles. Los Angeles, and you got to read a book called City of Quartz, of Quartz, Quartz, by Mike Davis. And it kind of gives context to Los Angeles culturally. Los Angeles is a wayward city where people from counter-religious movements, counter-political movements actually came to with an intent to create an industry or create something. Walter H. Leimert was from the East Coast. He was a member of the pact of people that came out here with the intent to, take advantage of the resources in the landscape. Land was cheap. So when he developed Leimert Park, so the same man who developed Central Park on the East Coast, designed and developed by way of Walter H. Leimert, designed Leimert Park, which is why it's called Leimert Park. But the original bylaws of Leimert Park stated, I think it was clause number 16, and all the clauses of the neighborhood. He never intended for a person of color to live in Leimert unless you were a butler, maid, or servant. There's something called, it was Shelley versus Roe, 1948 was the end of the red zoning laws. The red zoning laws famously prevented black people from living in certain areas in America. And after 1948, when that ruling was overturned, black people started to move around a little bit, but still economically couldn't live in certain areas. The area that is Leimert Park is technically in the Crenshaw district. And that area was inhabited mostly by rich white people. The guy Baldwin who owned the ranch for Baldwin Hills and all this shit. It never really intended for black people to live there. So we had to sublease through white families or really Japanese families, because after the camps in World War II, a large contingency of Japanese people came to Leimert first before droves of black people came there. And so it was never really intended for black people to live there unless you're a butler, maid, or servant, and probably still wouldn't be as stronghold for black people in LA if it wasn't for the 1965 Watts revolt or riots. So that caused something we call white flight. White flight, all the white people who were traditionally landowners, homeowners there, felt it was in too close proximity to Watts, after that type of revolt. So you started seeing a lot of people flee out. And then Leimert actually got established by the black artistic community, social political movements, artists, and then there's something they don't talk about very often, but black gay males helped establish Leimert Park. They don't talk about that a lot, but that's actually the contingency of people. And my father always told me, when you're thinking about, and this is gonna be controversial, but he always said when I started making a little bit of money, he was like, if you think about investing, always invest where artists and gay people go, because they're usually the vanguard of gentrification. And I was like, damn, I used to trip off that, like, this nigga be saying some wild shit. but if you think about it, it's probably the truth. So when you talk about Dale Davis and the Brockman Gallery and his brother, and where people like famous black artists were first discovered. You talk about Eric Dolphy, you talk about Billy Higgins, you talk about Horace Tapscott. Like, it became just this place where artists that felt as though they had a responsibility to black people came from, were headquartered. But they never intended, Walter H. Leimert never intended for black people to live there unless they were a butler, maid, or servant.
Which side are you on?
Get off the fence, son.
Which side are you on? get off the bench, son.